On today's show, the NBA draft is 2 weeks away. The Hawks have plenty of decisions to make between now and then. And I am joined on today's podcast by Rafael Barlowe, the proprietor of NBA Big Board, and of course, one of the hosts of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast. We'll get into all kinds of draft talk and more right now.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 1993 of the Locked On Hawks podcast. I am your host, Brad Rowland, coming to you on a Tuesday evening into Wednesday here in mid-June. And today's podcast is brought to you by the folks at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. I also want to encourage you, as I always do at the top of the podcast, to make Locked On Hawks your first listen each and every day. Check us out and subscribe to the podcast anywhere you happen to listen or watch your podcast. That includes Apple, Spotify, YouTube, etc. And also be sure to tell your friends, family, colleagues, and more about our podcasts. I appreciate you listening to the show always. It's our third show of the week. I had a show on Monday. I had a show on, actually in emergency fashion, Monday evening into Tuesday about the two most recent hires for the Hawks in the front office. Listen to that show for sure. And then today, I'll be joined by Rafael Barlowe. He is one of the hosts of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast about the NBA draft all year round. And also, Rafael is the proprietor of the NBA Big Board newsletter as well. So Rafael does this great work all year long. It's kind of a crossover episode. And without any further delay, we'll dive in right now about the NBA draft, the Hawks, and much more with Rafael Barlowe. All right, my name is Brad Rowland. I'm joined on today's podcast by the proprietor of NBA Big Board, the newsletter that you need to be subscribed to, as well as one of the hosts of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast, Rafael Barlowe. What's up, man? How are you?
Nothing much, man. Proprietor. I have to use that. I haven't heard that one yet, but I'm gonna have to add that to my vocabulary. Creator,
man about town, all those things you could say about people. No, I appreciate you doing this, especially this close to the draft. I'm sure this happens to you all the time. I was trying to walk the line between how early to ask you to do this. I don't want to do it in April, but I didn't want to do it next week either, when you probably have even more asks than you have now. So we're walking the 2-week line of what's going to happen here. But I know you're crazy busy, so we'll get you in and get you out. But I have to start kind of big picture. The Hawks have these two picks, 13 and 22. It's really interesting. People keep asking me. I'm sure they're asking you, not as much as me, maybe about just the Hawks. But It's really interesting because they're not side by side, but they're in this general range together. They're 9 spots apart. And I've been saying pretty much the whole time, there's like 25 guys they could probably draft with these two picks. So it's such a wide thing. Like, what do you make of their situation? And also like this kind of area of the draft, because late lottery to 22 doesn't seem like a huge range, but like they're not exactly the same. Like guys you would think about at 22, you may not want to think about at 13 and back and forth.
Yep. So before I get into the answer, I mean, you guys have 2 picks. So you could have reached out to me in April. You could have reached out to me the day before the draft, because there's a lot of teams that don't have picks, but you guys have 2. And I think Atlanta's an interesting situation because they have the option to maybe try to package those 2 picks and move up if there's somebody that they like and so on. So yeah, anytime, man, we can talk draft. But yeah, there's not a lot of difference. I think it's in the eyes of the beholder. And I mean, like for me, when I look at Atlanta, their needs, you need a 7-footer and you need a backup point guard, and you need a backup point guard with size. So I think they can get both in that range. But I also think if I'm running the Hawks, I'm trying to kick the tires on, can I move up? And there's one particular guy that I think makes a lot of sense for Atlanta. It is Khaman Maluach from Duke. He provides size. His adjustment to the NBA will be simplified by playing with Trae Young. And so I just wonder, like, what package or how high do they need to get up to try to get in his range?
Yeah, and look, I don't necessarily love trading up in this draft. I've said that, but I also understand why they might consider doing it. Like they don't have, like you at their needs. It's not a team that, while they're better in the play-in, they do have like a 5-player young core, and they kind of fit together. And like they don't have this like screaming positional needs that other teams have, like at the highest level. Yes, you probably want to have a bigger center at some point on your roster, backup point guard, like you said, but like you don't necessarily have to draft a backup point guard. You can go sign one. Like you don't have to draft one. With Maluach, it's interesting because he's got a little bit of a tie to the Hawks. Number one, the Hawks seem to draft a Duke player every year, which is funny, but they drafted so many guys from Duke. Kyle Korver has a relationship with Khaman Maluach that's been talked about, been reported on. Kyle's only one part and maybe even a smaller part of the front office after the couple of hires they made in the last couple of weeks, last couple of days. We're talking now.
The last few hours.
Yeah, hours. I mean, whatever it is. But yeah, I'm intrigued. But I like the package of Maluach, but also like he does have flaws, and it's like for me, it's like you're trading up for a player that I have questions about, and I'm intrigued by the strengths for sure. But like if you're doing a sales pitch on Maluach, what's the sales pitch? Is it as simple as it seems? Just massive rim protector, etc.
Yeah, well, I don't even think he's a massive rim protector. I just think you're drafting him or trying to move up to get him based off of what he could be. The Hawks don't have a lot of size. Okongwu was 6'9", maybe on a good day, depending on what shoes he has on.
Yeah.
And so I think you need size. And then I think that with him, like I mentioned, his job becomes a lot easier with Trae Young. I remember a couple years ago, I live in Dallas, and I was pounding like all draft cycle. The Mavs need Derek Lively. They don't have any rebounding. They were starting Dwight Powell at center, and he didn't rebound and so on. And so many people were saying he only averaged 5 points a game. He doesn't do this. And I'm like, his role is going to be simple in Dallas. Run the floor, rebound, and catch lobs. It's not like, like he's going to be in a situation where you're hoping that he remains energetic and continues to play with energy when he's not going to get any touches. And so I think when you have a James Harden or Luka Doncic or a Trae Young, you can draft a center higher than what most people think that he should go, because if that center runs the floor and if he can space the floor vertically, he's going to get touches. And like the old saying, like the best way to reward a big man is to feed him the ball when he's running the floor. And so I think Maluach can have a Derek Lively type impact if he goes to Atlanta. Now, if I'm his representation, I'm begging to go to Atlanta. Other than that, I'm like, well, dang, where am I going to go? That's going to get me touches. So that's my pitch. But I guess I haven't told you my pitch yet. But
no, it's okay. Okay. No, I actually agree with you, and this is a different conversation we don't have to have now. But like, I couldn't understand for the life of me why Alex Sarr didn't want to go to Atlanta last year to play with Trae Young. I didn't understand that. I still don't understand it. I don't know why he wouldn't have wanted to go to Atlanta. And I think maybe it's just I don't know maybe it's that he didn't want to play center, which is kind of funny now because he just played center all season long. Even though
that's why I've heard that Washington may take Maluach at 6. And so just from what I've heard, that if Atlanta wants him, they're trying to figure out how high do they need to go to get him, because Washington may say, Sarr's allergic to the paint. He doesn't want to bang down there. So we need to find a 5 that will allow him to play the 4. So that's one of the things I've heard. Like Atlanta is just trying to figure out if this is their guy, how high do we need to go to get him?
Yeah. And look, I'm skeptical that you can get that high. I mean, without going into the future picks that they don't really have. I mean, they're not set up terribly now post the second DeJounte Murray trade, but like 13 and 22 doesn't get you to 6. I don't think like that. Yeah. Usually it's that's going to like get you like maybe to 8. Like you have to add more in to get any higher than that, which is interesting. I mean, it's not that you can't do it, but that suddenly you're going in way more all in on one trade if you do that.
I don't think it's out of the question, because from what I've heard, that because maybe 4 through 13 is all in the eyes of the beholder, it could be a situation where a team is like, well, the guy that I really like, his range is at 9, but I don't want to go get him at 4. I'm just throwing out scenarios here.
Sure.
So maybe we can make a trade, get an extra pick to get the guy that we really want. And going back to the Dallas and the Lively deal, I think that's what happened with Oklahoma City and Dallas. The Thunder Dallas drafted Cason Wallace, and then they were able to make some type of trade where Dallas dumped Bertan's contract, and they got the guy that they wanted. And so they were able to like draft somebody, trade back. They had to work something out. So I think it could be possible, because I've heard some teams feel like, there's the guy, there's not a big difference. And the guy that we like, we can probably get him in the team. So let's just pick up another pick in the process.
It's so funny because that parallel, I'm sure Hawks fans are yelling at their either phone or computer right now. Like the Hawks were tied to both Cason Wallace and Derek Lively in that class. And there were some Capella, Derek Lively talks too, and swaps. And it didn't happen then, but it was just one of those things. Today's show is brought to you by WayFair. It's nothing like stepping into your own outdoor space and feeling like you've escaped into a personal oasis. If you want to update your patio this season, WayFair has made it so easy, turning that space into a feeling of your own. Comfortable, stylish, and ready for summer, WayFair has everything you need to level up your outdoor space. That includes conversation sets and outdoor bars, fire pits, hot tub, gazebos, and everything in between, even the perfect string lights to see the vibe and the life that you want whenever you want to have it in your backyard. It's like giving your backyard the resort feel without actually having the resort price tag. That's obviously great. If you're working with a budget like I am all the time, you also filter and find exactly what you need with WayFair. And that's also the case if you don't have a massive space as well and want to work within a smaller area of land. And delivery with WayFair is also free, fast, and totally hassle-free, even for larger items. That's been huge for me in the past and will always be in the future. And that, for me, and now whether it's an event that I'm hosting with friends or just unwinding in a small group by myself, it generally feels like a personal and private retreat if you want to have that set up with WayFair. Don't wait. Make your outdoor space your dream oasis today with WayFair and enjoy it all summer long. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop a huge outdoor selection. That is WAYFAIR, wayfair.com. WayFair, every style, every home. I was going to ask you, and you already kind of got into it, but like, have you heard anything about the Hawks? Like, I know there's always things like I don't feel comfortable reporting that I've heard. Like, there's always that line of like, all right, what do you want to share? I'm not trying to put you on the spot. If there's nothing you can put out there, that's totally fine. It's just we're in that weird zone now, and I'll preface by saying the Hawks front office is like still kind of in flux, and it has been so much to where like, not that everyone that I know is gone. That's not true. But there's this, for me, it's just you're introducing more uncertainty to the process. Like last year, I knew all the players, right? And now it's like you have the owner, you have Ansi, who was there a year ago, but now has more power. You got two more guys in that are brand new that I don't know. It's just I'm very uncertain about what they're going to do, and not in a bad way. It's just this new change brings uncertainty. So I wonder what you've heard, if anything at all, about the Hawks.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a few things, but at the end of the day, nobody really knows. And what's interesting about the two guys that they brought in, one was I don't know his exact position. You know, these positions are
they're all
whatever
fluid.
Your title is may not mean you do the same thing as another guy with the same title. But he was with the Pelicans, who are picking at 7. And then Peter Dinwiddie, who they got from the Sixers, and the Sixers are picking 3rd. So I wonder, like, for those guys that before they were interviewing for the Hawks job, like, were there guys that they liked? Did they have certain guys in mind? And now that they're with Atlanta, and Atlanta has a pick below those guys, how much does that impact everything? So with that being said, I don't think anybody really knows, because it's really a brand spanking new front office. And to my knowledge, I don't know who has the final decision.
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer in my mind, unfortunately, is maybe the owner. The owner's very involved always. And look, this is a pick that's a little bit lower down. If this is a top 5 pick, I would tell you with confidence it was the owner that could overrule and might overrule. But yeah, Ante Saleh is in charge, but Bryson Graham, especially the guy I brought in from the Pelicans, has a draft reputation. Like that's one of his strengths. Like, and I talked to people in New Orleans this week. They were like, "Hey, these guys." He's a big draft guy, has opinions, and I'm sure, to your point, he's been scouting this class the whole time for a year. Like, I'm sure he's got opinions on all these guys. And they weren't that far out of the range. The Pelicans are ahead of the Hawks, but I'm sure he's got a board that looks like it's going to make a difference to some degree in Atlanta. And you're coming in late with 2 weeks to go, but you don't hire that guy and then ignore his opinions. I don't think. So.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I thought the timing of it was pretty interesting anyway. Just 2 weeks before the draft.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know they've had workouts. I've been aware of some of the names that have worked out. I just wonder how much of the philosophy changes, or it's just a very unique situation to be in as a Hawks fan, even for you that covers the Hawks, because there's really no track record from the team standpoint. You're going off the track record from the previous spot. But again, the 2 weeks makes it even difficult to really just kind of put it all together.
I'm glad you said that so that people don't think I'm crazy, because I've been saying that for a while. Even before they brought these two guys in this week, I was already kind of uncertain. Now I'm even more uncertain about what they might do, because nobody in that front office has a number 1 track record. Like Graham was draft guy in New Orleans, but it wasn't his call. Ante Saleh has a really good track, not his call. Kyle Korver, all those things. So some uncertainty there. I do want to ask you about some players, because I have you here, people in the Hawks range, because I've been saying, like, I know they have positions they can take. They can kind of do anything they want. That's the thing about these, having 2 picks, having the backup they have. Because for me, it's like the guys that do have, are, they have these 3 athletic kind of two-way wing forward types, but like you can't have too many of those guys. If they want to draft another one of those guys, sign me up for that. Do you have let's say they don't trade up, or maybe they go up like one spot. Do you have a guy that you like love for the Hawks at 13 that's like somewhat realistic? It doesn't have to be somebody that's like definitely going to be there, but do you have a like you'll give them an A+ on that Thursday morning if they draft that guy at 13 guy?
Yeah, and I put it in my latest mock draft that came out on my website, Maxime Raynaud. And I feel like I've been talking about him so much because he's like my guy that I believe in more than everyone else. And I've actually been criticized. Someone called me an industry plant because
it's a rite of passage, I guess. And by the way, not to cut you off, I'll let you finish. I think Hawks fans have been reading you, because Hawks fans are not all of them, but a lot of Hawks fans are in on Maxime Raynaud. So they'll be very excited that you're saying this on the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to the Hawks fans. But yeah, like I've been saying for a while, he's a first-round pick, and I think he's just been hiding in plain sight. For the life of me, I don't understand. He averaged 20 points and 11 rebounds, and he was second in the ACC in scoring and first in rebounding, and he made the most threes in NCAA history by a 7-footer. So why hasn't he had first round buzz? And then it's just funny to me because he had one game at the combine and people are like, oh my gosh, Maxime Raynaud was rising up draft boards. I'm like, he averaged 20 and 11. So with that being said, I think for him, the Hawks need size. He does rebound. I think he's the most skilled big in the draft. If you just watch his film, and he's athletic, he can move, he can attack closeouts. Whether you want on the left block, the right block, left hand hook, right hand hook, face up game. And there are some concerns about the rim protection. And I spoke with him. I had an interview with him, and I was asking him about that. And he said, yeah, if you look at like the last month of the season, he made some changes. I think he brought in like a coach on the outside to like teach him, like, I guess, positioning or whatever. And he said he averaged like 2.7 blocks per game over the last 10. And so he was saying that he was taught to wall up at Stanford, and they had the same coach his first 3 years. And he said it was just a different philosophy. But I like what he brings to the table, and Maxime is like a phenomenal interview. I mean, he's a Stanford guy and very engaging, and he remembers like plays. And I remember saying, yeah, there was this play I saw from you, and he remembers the exact time. And one of the things he pointed out to me was he averaged 20 points a game. And he said he caught 2 lobs all season.
That's wild.
2 lobs.
Absolutely wild.
So these are self-created shots. So I'm like, well, shoot, you put him on a team where he's got somebody that's going to get him some easy shots that you might really have, you have something there. And I just like his story. I mean, he's a late bloomer, wasn't highly touted, entered Stanford on like a partial scholarship. And so I think he's trending in the right direction. Some may be concerned like, oh yeah, he's a senior, but hey, the next 2 years, you're either going to be an elite freshman or you're going to be a 4th or 5th year senior, because if you're not a first round pick, most likely guys are going to be going back to school. Almost like if you're not a lottery pick, there's going to be so much money in NIL. So with that being said, I think he fits, or he feels the need for positional size, and he can shoot. So I think the Hawks could use a 7-footer that can space the floor.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you buy the defense, I'm not saying you're like all in on the defense, but if you think it's going to be good enough, I don't worry about the offense really much at all. Like, I think there's a lot to like about the offense. And as you mentioned, he did rebound the ball at a high level in the ACC, a real league. I know it was a down league this year, but still a real league. Yep. And the size, the skill. And he's kind of a young senior. Like, he's still old. He's 22, but like he's not like 24. Like, there are guys that are older than him that are projected first round picks. I think Nick Clifford's a year older than he is. Different position, all that stuff. But like,
Derek Queen is like 19 or 18 months younger, and he was a freshman. As
a freshman, I mean, I think Ryan Kalkbrenner is a year older is a full year older than Raynaud, and is also a senior. So, I like him. I wonder, and maybe it only takes one team situation. I'm sure someone will ask me, why can't they draft him at 22? If you look at some of these boards, he's down there a lot, but he also, to your point, because you just lay out the package beautifully, 7-footer with those tools offensively, that production, one team in the teens takes him. And if he's your guy, I've been saying the whole time, I don't know if you agree with me or not. If you have a guy that you love and you're the Hawks, you don't risk it. Even if you don't think he's, if you might be there at 22, might be there, but if he's like your guy, you just got to take him at 13. So if he's your guy, you take him.
Well, I think you really have to consider San Antonio at 14. Raynaud and Victor were teammates when in their youth days. They're both French. They have the same agent. So I think San Antonio is a real factor there, especially if Victor wants to be able to play like on the perimeter more. Then they may need a traditional five. I'm not saying Maxime is traditional, but they may need another big. I also feel like if you're San Antonio, if that's what Victor wants at 14, then you may, you know what I mean, have to consider it. Then even consider like the chemistry they may already have from playing together in their younger days to they're going to play together on the Olympic teams, or So I mean, I think that's a strong possibility. So I know there's another team that I've spoken to some scouts for the team, 2 particular scouts that love him in the lottery range, but they're not the final decision makers. So I think if Atlanta really likes him, and I know he worked out for him, and I heard the workout went pretty good, I don't know if you gamble on waiting until 22.
Yeah, it makes sense to me for sure. This show is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like the NBA playoffs. The intensity, the buzzer beaters, and the fans losing their minds is kind of the atmosphere that you actually have to experience live. And if you want in, Game Time makes it fast and easy to get seats, even for the biggest possible playoff games. Prices on the Game Time actually drop closer to tip-off, and with killer last-minute deals and no surprise fees, Game Time is a total game changer for you. I love that I actually see the exact view from my seats before I buy them with no surprises. And the NFL schedule is also out right now. And you better believe I'm already looking at my stuff for the fall when it comes to calendars and travel, picking which games to hit. Game Time also makes scoring tickets for the NFL just as easy as the NBA and other sports as well. And with the Game Time guarantee, you have tickets that are 100% authentic. They will arrive for you on time, and you'll always get the best possible price with fees included. So what you see is what you pay at Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets right now with the folks at the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create that account with Game Time and use that code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. I want to ask you about a guy that I haven't talked about really much at all, but because you talked about point guard, and I know he had access to your board that's publicly available, you are higher on him than some, and that's Nolan Traore.
Yeah.
Would he be a guy that you would like in Atlanta? And also, if you don't mind, tell people about him a little bit, because he's not necessarily. I mean, of course, you know this very well. International guys don't get the same level of attention always as the college guys because they're harder to watch.
Yeah. And even like covering the draft, sometimes if it's a draft that's heavy international at the top, there's less interest. And it's like,
I mean, last year's a good example of this with Rasheer. I mean, I was like, I never watched him when the Hawks drafted him. Literally never watched him at all. And they're like diehard Hawks fans. I'm like, yeah, it's hard to watch these guys if you don't pay attention.
Yeah. It's and I had seen Rasheer a few times before he got over to the States. I like Traore a lot. I don't know if I'm a big fan of him in Atlanta. However, it just depends on what happens with Trey. What is it? A 4-year, $228 million deal. I've heard 2 different things. I've heard that they're going to pay him, and then I've heard that they're not going to give him the full thing. So, I mean, to me, that's like the wild card, because if you don't, then he can say, all right, I want out. And now you're thin at point guard.
Oh,
so, if there was a situation where Atlanta did not believe Trey was going to sign the extension, whether it's the full 228 or whether it's less than that, then I think you would strongly consider Traore there. I like him. I think that he had a rough start to the season and people soured on him, and then they stopped paying attention. But he's the same guy that at this time last year, and I know things can change, but at this time last year, everybody thought this guy's a top 5 pick.
Yep.
There was a game in the Adidas Next Generation tournament where he played against Barcelona and Kasparas Jakachonis, who's a projected lottery pick, and he gave him 45. He led the FIBA U18s in assists at 9 a game. He played in the Nike Hoop Summit and had 18 points. So he had a really good spring and summer. And then he just got off to a rough start, which I think if I put any other freshman point guard in that situation, you're playing professionally, I think there's going to be an adjustment. And so for him, I think if I put him in college basketball, I think he would have looked a lot better. So I'm a little higher on him than the consensus, just because I think the improvements that he made throughout the season, nobody's cared or nobody's paid attention to. But he does have some flaws that I understand. Very dominant and predictable, very right-hand dominant. If he goes left, if it's a step back. Not the most efficient finisher at the rim. The three-point shot comes and goes. But I like the tools. He's fast. He's a good passer. And he has the game that I think is suited for the modern NBA.
I wanted to ask you about Egor Demin as well, in part because he's an interesting fit in Atlanta, even independent of his other questions, which there is a big split on him. I know you know that. There's a giant split on him, whether people have him in the lottery or they don't. But also, he's a pass-first player, obviously. That's his number one skill.
Pass first, pass second, pass third.
Yeah, okay. That's true. And, I like him as a passer, for sure. Yeah. But, he's in Atlanta's range. He's right there in Atlanta's range. Yep. And I wonder, both, I guess, two questions, the player and also, do you see him, could he function on a team with Trae Young, or would it be kind of wasted? Do you see, is there an avenue for him to be a secondary creator and actually be magnified, or does he need to be the primary for him to hit his upside?
I actually never really thought about it, but it could make sense because he has the size at 6'9", and I don't think he's done growing. I've been following him since he was 14 or 15. I've talked to him a couple of times. Every time I talk to him, I'm like, dude, are you growing? And then he looks like 12 in the face. And so I wonder, and he told me, I forgot. I don't know if he told me or not, but I feel like he did tell me that he's not sure if he's done growing. So with that being said, I think maybe you can play those two together. Not necessarily start them, but if there's a lineup where you say, man, I want Trae to come off the ball some, or I want Trae to focus on scoring, or if a team is trying to wear Trae out by picking him up full court, then you can have Egor bring the ball up the floor. And then you see it's working. With Indiana, you have multiple ball handlers and multiple guys that can initiate the offense and so on. So I think it could be a fit. I think one of Atlanta's needs is a backup point guard or another distributor. But I do wonder, with him and Dyson. Dyson's obviously a much better defender. But would you have enough firepower on offense if those two are on the court together?
Yeah, I would share that concern. I just want to make sure I asked about because, you're here after all. Another guy that I get questions about a lot, and the Hawks fans seem to like, is Rasheer Fleming, who I know you have as a mid-first rounder, so right in the middle of their range too. I am high on him too. I wonder what you think there, because again, not a shot creator, but a heck of a play finisher, it seems like, and also just has a lot of defensive strengths. And like I said before, having some big physical forwards, never the worst thing in the world. So what do you make of that potential fit?
Yeah, unless they think he can be a small ball 5 in some stretches, I think there's a little bit of redundancy there as far as just positional fit. I like him a lot, though. One of the things I really like about him is that he wasn't like this highly touted dude coming out of high school. He was the third best player on this high school team. They had DJ Wagner, who's at Arkansas, and Aaron Bradshaw, who started off at Kentucky and was at Ohio State last year. I forgot where he just transferred to this year. But those dudes were All-Americans, McDonald's All-Americans, projected first-round picks. And Fleming just quietly got better and better and better. And this was the first year that I felt like watching him, the production and the skill level were on the same page. So I think he's trending in the right direction, but he has some things that he brings to the table. He shot 39% from 3. He averaged 2.9 stocks per game. He can be a pick and pop guy. He has some skill if you get him the ball on the block. I just thought about it today. And this is just not coincidence, but what if he's like Paul Millsaps? Because remember, Paul was a rebounder only at and then all of a sudden you're like, dang, Paul got this game where he's getting the ball in the mid post and the elbows. And so I'm thinking can Rasheer Fleming be a modern day Paul Millsap? Obviously that would be a big time win if that happens. But I don't know about the positional fit, because when I look at Atlanta, I'm like, Risa Shea and Johnson are interchangeable. Okongwu's a 5, but you want to bring some size in. What lineups does a guy like Rasheer Fleming, where does he fit in at?
It makes sense. In an effort to not keep you too long, I want to ask you one more.
I got time.
one more broad question. And it's not fair because we both talked about this now. Like, there's so many guys that can take. It's such a wide. We can't talk about all of them. If it's not Maxime Raynaud, like, he could even be a good fit at 22. Like, do you have another guy or two that you think would be good in Atlanta? I mean, I won't even name all the players, but, like, are you a Cedric Coward guy? Like, there's all kinds of ways they could go. Like, do you have anybody else that you let's say Maxime gets sniped from them at 12 or something like that? Who's kind of next down the list if you were giving the Hawks some advice from your side of things?
I would go with Coward just because I think that the guy that's 6'5" with a 7'2" wingspan gives them another defender, another long defender and shooter, another guy that has like a really, really good story coming out of high school. He had no offers. And I tend to like lean towards those guys because there's a level of hunger that they're not entitled, I should say. They haven't been reading about themselves since they were 12 and have been told, like, you're the man. So I think sometimes when you get players like that, it's easier for a coach to give them a role that may not be the most glamorous role, and they'll accept it. Like, if you take a guy like Coward and just say, your job is to stand in the corner and defend, I think it's easier for him to accept that than someone that's like, man, I played with the ball in my hands my whole life. You know, in college, I was the big time scorer. So what do you mean stand in the corner? That's just my personal thought behind it. But I would go with Coward. Again, shooter, defender. I think there's more to him than what he's been able to show. There's a guy that I like at 22, and I guess we got 5 days to find out whether or not he's going to stay in the draft.
All right.
Hear me out, Hawks fans. Neoklis Avdalas.
See, I was going to ask because I read your most recent mock draft, not to give it away, but that's the guy that you gave out to the Hawks 22. I have not said his name on this podcast, I don't think. Maybe I have once, but I don't remember if I did. So what's the sales pitch? Who is he? I mean, I'm talking about, like, people probably don't know much at all. So yeah. Who is it?
So Avdalas is a 6'8" point guard from Greece, and I've been watching him for a while. When I look at in Europe, they go by generations, the year you were born. So when I look at the top players that were born in the 2006 generation, from Egor Demin to Kasparas Giacochonis to Noah Singay, all guys that are going to be first-round picks in this draft. Hugo Gonzalez from Real Madrid in Spain is another name. Avdalas, to me, there is not a talent gap between them. He's 6'8", he's athletic, he can pass. He was just in this unfortunate situation to where he wasn't given the freedom. I feel like he was restricted in Greece. And I think his game is more suited to the American style or NBA style of basketball, where it's free-flowing and it's not as tactical and it's not as much structure. And sometimes if you're an international player and you play, a certain type of way, it's frowned on because everything is so tactical. And I think with him, he's so talented. I don't even know if they know what to do with a 6'8" athletic point guard. So with that being said, the first time I saw him play it wasn't the first time, but when I saw him play in person last year at Basketball Without Borders All-Star Weekend in Indianapolis, he was just as good as Giacochonis and Singay. He was good as all of those guys, and he looked like a different player. He was so good when he was 15. He played in a EuroLeague game at 15. But then all of a sudden, I felt like his development stalled, and he wasn't given the freedom to play. So with that being said, I know this is a long answer. Egor goes to BYU. He's given the keys, and all of a sudden he's a projected lottery pick by some. Giacochonis goes to Illinois, and he's given an opportunity that he would not have gotten if he stayed in Europe. He blows up, and he's a projected lottery pick. Noah Singay and Ben Saraf, two young guys that are in a very unique situation playing in Germany where they're playing young players. They get an opportunity to play in a professional league. Now they're considered first-round picks. Gonzalez's situation is a little similar in a sense that he didn't get the chance to play because he was on a Real Madrid team loaded. So anyway, with that being said, I think Avdalas played well at the NBA Combine. I actually had people pull me to the side and was like, he's real comfortable. I like him. I like him a lot because they hadn't had a chance to see him play. And when they did see him play, they saw him playing a position that wasn't his natural position. So with that being said, I think that if I'm the Hawks and I got a chance to take a 6'8" point guard at 22 who's young, who can shoot the ball and pass, I'm going to take him. Because if he decides to go back to school, I think we're going to be talking about him as a lottery pick in 2026. And if you're a Hawks fan, you hope you're not picking in the lottery in 2026.
Yeah, especially because they won't have access. We'll have a swap with the Spurs, and you think the Spurs, if Wemby's back, are going to be pretty good, you'd imagine. Yeah. So yeah, we would agree on that. Well, Rafael, I appreciate the time, man. This has been awesome. Where can folks who might be listening to Locked on Hawks find everything? I will plug it all as well, but where can they find all of your work? Because it's definitely vital, especially this time of year.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it. I could have went on another hour or so, but yeah, you can find me at NBA Big Board. If you want to do another one before the draft, let me know. I mean, could be some trades. But...
Our mutual friend Nick, who is a supervisor of ours, does not like when I go long on podcasts. So I'm I'm thinking of Nick right now and saying, get out of here, get out of here, get out of here. So shouts to you, Nick. But go ahead, Rafael.
yeah, I get it. We got the same supervisor. But yeah, NBABigBoard.com. That's my newsletter. It's on Substack. And then I have a podcast, Locked On NBA Big Board. And I mean, you guys listen to Locked On. You know we're very easy to find because we're coming at you 5 days a week.
That's right. We are churning it out. But no, thank you, sir, for doing this. People should be subscribed to the Substack, following the podcast. And it's all year round. Like, I'm a draft sicko, so I'm listening all year round. People should be listening all year round. It's not only for June. I mean, you're all these guys early. I mean, I'm sure you're tired of talking about all these guys by now. Maybe not.
Yeah.
But like,
yeah. I mean, after April, it's like, dang. Got to start all over for the people who just started listening.
Right.
No knock on the new listeners, but
a new audience for sure after the season ends. Well, thank you again, Rafael. Please subscribe to Locked on Hawks as well, and we'll see everybody next time.